Deconverted man here. All right, so SJ tweeted a tweet, and yeah, here we go again. So atheism fails to explain our origins, meaning, morality, and purpose, and then link to this Christian Valor website. Okay, so we're going to go over this, and I'm going to tell you all the lies that it contains, which is a lot of lies. And a lot of epic fails, which SJ should know better by now, but whatever, it's fine, it's okay. So, Christian Valor, sharing defended the Christian truth. Well, I'm glad he clarified, because there's the actual truth that doesn't need a capital T, and then I guess there's the Christian truth. Why Atheism Fails, December 30, by Jeff. What is atheism? If you ask an atheist this question, most often they'll carefully explain to you that atheism is a lack of belief in God, because it is. They're very sensitive about this. No, that's a straw man. Maybe some people are. It doesn't bother me one bit, so go ahead and poison the well as you straw man. 2 logical fallacies already. Atheism is one thing, a lack of belief in gods. There you go. That's it. From the horse's mouth. Yeah, that's it. That's what it is. That's all it is. The end. Thanks for asking. No, but you're going to keep going because you need to double and quadruple down on the lies. Okay, so a lack of belief is not the same thing as a non-belief. What? To claim God does not exist is an absolute statement, which is virtually impossible to prove deductively. Well, no. Depends what you mean by prove. If you're talking about within formalized logic, proving a universal negative can be not done by anybody at all, anywhere, period, because that's how it functions. Proving a non-universal negative is possible. So if it's localized and can be disproved, then you can do that easily with a logical argument or with simple deduction skills or scientific method, other methodologies. But a universal claim is one that can't be shown to not be. You can't prove that sort of negative. Nobody can. So I don't know why apologists have to bring this up like it's a big deal. Like, well, you can't disprove this. Well, you can't disprove a lot of things. That's not the point. The point is you need to be able to prove it because the burden is on you that made the positive claim. But as far as this weird statement about lack of belief is not the same thing as a non-belief, I don't know that that's true. If I lack a belief in X, that is the same thing as not believing in X. What maybe you're trying to say, because, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, but I don't know why I should, is that to say there is no X is different than to say, I don't believe in X. There is a difference there. There's no Yahweh. I'll make that very clear. From my position, I'm happy to say there's no Yahweh all day long, but there's no God. Well, I don't know what God is. It depends who's saying God. What does the person that said God mean by that? So I am a little bit more open with other God possibilities other than Yahweh. I've eliminated Yahweh logically, historically, as far as I am concerned. As far as I have deduced, I am very happy to make the solid statement and back it with an argument that there is no Yahweh, but a different God claim that is not Yahweh. Well, show me what you got. Maybe you have something to offer that's out there, that's possible, that Yahweh didn't have because it wasn't a thing. Anyways, so because Yahweh is a God, then sometimes it gets clumped together with the other gods. So the atheists will simply say they lack belief and say it's mostly because of lack of sufficient evidence, agnosticism. No, it's not agnosticism. Did you read too much of somebody whose name I shall not mention's writings on this. This is something that apologists and people that think that they understand philosophy tend to get wrong. I don't know why, but agnosticism refers to knowledge claims. So if you say, I don't know that there is a God, I don't know that there is no God, then you're agnostic. Now, you can be agnostic theist, you can be agnostic atheist, they're compatible. But as far as sufficient evidence or lacking that is not part of agnosticism. So this is just a lie, just an outright lie. Ring, ring. No, I'm not answering the phone. Okay, so some atheists are happy to flat out deny the existence of God. I have a problem with this statement because deny implies that it actually is a thing, and you haven't established that it is a thing. And explicitly deny he exists, there you go again, assuming that assumes your conclusion, so this is circular argumentation, but most do not. Well, I'll say that there is no Yahweh, but that's not denying it because it's just saying there is no Yahweh. Other gods, I don't know. What do you got? Depends on what God. I don't know. What do you have? In practice, however, virtually all atheists live life as if God does not exist and harbor a characteristic agnosticism towards religious belief. Really? Citation? Do you have any study to back up that statement? Like, how many people actually harbor a characteristic agnosticism towards religious belief? Is there? No, there's nothing to support this statement. So this is just pointless. So you don't know how virtually all atheists live life because you have no data to make that next statement about. So you're just grasping at straws and creating straw men. Okay, so you're going to quote somebody. You're going to quote Seth MacFarlane. I don't care what Seth said. This is an appeal to novelty, appeal to celebrity, appeal to meaningless authority. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what he said. Your argument needs to stand or fail on its own merits without including people that happen to be atheists who have said whatever. If you cannot make an argument without quoting people, then you're just not very good at making arguments. Now, if this was an essay, this might be valid, but this is not an essay format because you don't have an opening argumentation here. You don't have the structure that an essay would have. So this isn't an essay format. This is a persuasionary format. Therefore, quotes don't belong in it. Therefore, this is a formal fallacy, and this shouldn't be in there. And it's also an informal fallacy of appeal to novelty, popularity, and the wrong authority, because he's not an authority in philosophical matters, as far as I know. In fact, many and most recognizable atheists like Dawkins appear to have a name for themselves primarily thanks to their condescending, a bit charismatic public personas. No, actually, Richard Dawkins was known before that for, teaching science and stuff. But maybe he got more attention when he came out against the theists. I don't know, but I don't think that was the primary reason. But so what? Even if it's true, so what? What's your point? Here's another quote. Don't care what Bill Maher has to say. Skip. Belief in any kind of God is many atheists, the antithesis of intelligent human reasonableness. Again, so this is a statement made without any support to it. Where's the studies that show that atheists agree to this statement? How many atheists were polled in that study? Etc. So you don't have anything to support this conclusion. Therefore, this conclusion is a straw man. Supposedly, atheism captures the spectrum of beliefs from outright rejection of any supernatural phenomenon at all to a more openness to some more spiritualized form of religion, to not necessarily believe in a God per se like Buddhism, or even weird stuff like Satanism and nature worship. Why is that weird stuff? I mean, it's weird to you, maybe, but Satanism and nature worship are very normal to those who practice it. So what's your problem there? I think this is more poisoning of the well by saying it's weird stuff. You didn't need to do that, but you did that because you don't like those things. Okay, you don't like those things, but you don't need, unless you're saying I don't like these things. Okay, but you could have, it's weird that you were like, Buddhism, that's fine, but Satanism and nature worship, oh, that's just weird. Oh, come on, get over yourself. But yes, supposedly atheism, that's funny. Supposedly. No, atheism is anything at all except for God. So if you don't believe in God, you're an atheist. You can believe in anything else you want. You can believe in the devil and angels and an afterlife and demons and anything else that you can think of except for a God. You could believe in all those things. As long as you don't believe in God, you're technically an atheist. So it would then therefore have any belief possible within it. Now, that's different than some sort of survey or polling of atheists worldwide where you actually got some data on what atheists believe and find out, what they believe or don't believe. Then you could say what beliefs or non-beliefs atheists typically have instead of creating more straw men. But that would ruin your apologetic webpage. Here's another appeal to somebody, a novelty with this guy's quote, don't care. Okay, so, but for the most part, atheism rejects any reference to the supernatural. Well, that, again, without any sort of polling, without any data, this is something you shouldn't make this statement. I don't know that I know of every atheist I've encountered, none have thought that the supernatural is a thing. But that doesn't mean, therefore, all atheists agree with that. I haven't polled all atheists or even a large amount of atheists to find out what they think. But so far, I haven't run into somebody. Occasionally, I think I've run into people that have some odd ideas, but I can't think off the top of my head anybody that did. But this is an appeal to my small minority set of atheists that I've happened to encounter. So I would not make the statement that atheism rejects the supernatural, because it doesn't necessarily do that. Atheists might individually and as a majority reject that. And if you did a proper study, you could find out the fact of the matter. But you could not therefore say atheism rejects X, because it's not what the word means. The word means one thing, and what the people that label themselves that word believe or don't believe is separate from what the word means. But if he was honest, he couldn't lie about it. So anyways, including ghosts and the paranormal, interdimensional spirituality. What the bleep is that? I've heard of spirituality, but not interdimensional spirituality. Whatever. The human soul or any kind of afterlife, including reincarnation. Yeah. Okay. I mean, again, this is something that atheists might have a majority opinion about. You don't have any data, so you can't make this statement. But even if that's the case, it's not that atheism rejects it. It's that atheists don't believe in the following, according to study X that you haven't presented because you're lazy. What you see is what you get. What is that like? I mean, that's I guess that's, I don't know what kind of saying that is. It's like, is that supposed to be the atheist being like, what you see is what you get? I guess. I mean, I don't know. Given that atheism rejects the supernatural, comma, you should have a comma there, because otherwise it sounds like supernatural atheists. I don't consider myself supernatural. I'm just messing with them at this point. No, atheism does not reject the supernatural. Maybe you meant to say skepticism, then you might have been able to get away with that. But atheists are, unsurprisingly, huge fans of science. What? That's a weird... what does one have to do with the other? Like, you could accept the supernatural and still be a huge fan of science. Are you making a false dichotomy here? And again, without any data to support that atheists are huge fans of science as like a majority thing, this is just a straw man. And this is kind of a so what moment for me. Like, okay, even if it was true, so what? Why is this a problem? Shouldn't we all be fans of science? You're using science right now to have this website. Anyways, to many atheists, science has all the tools to explain virtually all of our existence, because science is the study of the natural world, and the natural world is all there is. Well, let's see how many things are wrong there. Again, without any sort of supporting data of polling of atheists, you cannot make any assertions, even though you are, about what atheists agree with or don't agree with or believe in or don't believe in. You don't have the studies to back up your assertions. Therefore, more straw manning. You don't know this is true of X amount of atheists. You have no idea. You have nothing to base that conclusion on that is rigorous in nature to make this assertion. So it's a straw man. Does science have all the tools to explain virtually all of our existence, or does it just have all the tools to explain all our existence, and leave out the word virtually? I don't know. So here goes this is a load up of the straw man, the construct straw man. This is in preparation for the scientism claim that's going to come eventually. I'm sure that it's going to be like, scientism. See, you only say that science can do things, and it's not that, you can't use that. You can't use science to prove that science is the only thing that can figure out. Well, look, stop. Science is the study of things, but if there was anything beyond, quote unquote, the natural, whatever that would be, why wouldn't we be able to study that? Couldn't we make a science to study that? In fact, there are people that try to do that. Paranormal investigators is a thing that people are. Now, some of these people are kind of wacky, and I don't know, what good, if any, their methodology might be, but they're out there and they're trying to find evidence of the paranormal. Most of them have become skeptics because they haven't found anything, but some of them believe in weird stuff, so they think that they found stuff, But when it comes to if there was something beyond the natural, then you would have to show that that's the case, and then you would have to have something that was able to show that that was the case. And if it's not science, then what is it? And how do we use that thing to verify the other thing? How does the atheist explain our world? I don't know. Depends on the atheist. And again, it wouldn't be up to atheists to explain the world. I don't know. Explaining the world would be something like a combination of different scientists that would do that, I think. I mean, geologists and cosmologists and things like this. Oh, right, but you don't like the science stuff, I guess. So, we'll see. Atheism is a worldview, really, just like Christianity is a worldview. No, you're a liar. Stop lying. You lying liar. You're a liar. So who wrote this? So I can call him by the name. Jeff. Hey, Jeff, you're a liar. Stop lying. Atheism is not a worldview. It could be part of a worldview, but by itself is not a worldview. It is a description, not a prescription. It just says, in reference to the question, do you believe in God? If the answer is no, you're an atheist, and it does not inform you about anything else at all, period. End of story. It's not a worldview. Stop making this lie. Apologists, if you make this lie, I'm going to call you a liar. And since SJ Thomason put this as a tweet, I might have to call her a liar. Now, if she wants to block me for that, go ahead. But it's a lie, so don't do it. Atheism is not a worldview. Don't say that it is. You're a liar. Okay, so atheism means tried to limit itself to a lack of belief in God. It's not about trying to limit. That's what it is. But lacking a belief in God requires one to hold at least minimum beliefs about other things. No, it does not. Without reference to any God. No, you don't have to believe in anything to not believe in X. That's ridiculous. If God doesn't exist, then what caused the universe to exist? Oh, okay, so a meaningless question here. So this is supposed to be the question that the atheist must have an answer. The answer is I don't know. Okay, I don't know. So I have no beliefs regarding this question. So then that means that this fails to be a worldview. Because if it was a worldview, I'd have a direct answer about this from that worldview. But I don't, because it's not a worldview. And every atheist you would ask would have a similar answer to this question. Now, this question is a loaded question because it assumes that something caused the universe to exist. I don't know that anything caused the universe to exist in the way that we think of cause in the first place, because I'm not a cosmologist, but I would ask a cosmologist how the universe came to be. Why is it here? How is it? What's going on with that? Now, they might get to a point where they say, and then we don't know. And that's where that's it. And we go, okay, well, that's cool. We've got a mystery. Not knowing the answer to this doesn't mean God did it. So this would also be an appeal to ignorance and or personal incredulity. How is it the universe seems so perfectly fine-tuned for life? It doesn't. It's not. And you don't understand the anthropic principle, apparently, or the weak anthropic principle. The universe is vastly a bunch of places that would kill all life. Like, I don't know what percentage of the universe that is, so I'm not going to put in a meaningless percentage, but it's pretty big amount of the universe. And then if you go just to Earth, there's a lot of water where we can't live. I mean, other creatures can live in there, but there's a lot of places on Earth that life cannot live. So not as many as outside of the Earth, but very few, if anything, can live in outer space. And there's a whole lot of outer space out there. So how, again, is the universe tuned for life? Like, maybe if there was atmosphere or a way to survive in outer space, and like we humans could just swim around out there, then maybe you could make that statement. But because it's not that way, you can't make that statement. It's not fine-tuned for life. And even if I was to not understand this question or the root of it, or understand the science that says the universe is not fine-tuned, this is a misunderstanding, deliberate misunderstanding that apologists often do of how the science works in regard to the anthropic principle. You don't have a model that shows a different kind of universe. We only have one example. We don't know about other examples, and we don't know about other forms of life other than the life that we do know. So we have no idea how plentiful life is in this universe, and thus we can't say anything about fine-tuning. Life is fine-tuned for the universe, not the other way around. So if there was going to be life, it would have to adapt to the universe it finds itself in. That's the weak anthropic principle. Learn it. But anyways, and then I was going to say, even if I had it, if I didn't know all that, and I would just say, I don't know to this question, and therefore atheism isn't a worldview. What is morality? Where did it come from? Don't know could be an answer. Again, not something that atheism deals with because it's not a worldview. And I'd rather ask the question, what is your ethical system and why have you decided it? And then I'd list out the different ethical systems there are and maybe give links to the an explanation of each of those ethical systems, because I would invite the reader to do an in-depth study of themselves and their own ethical ideas, and to think about it and to learn a little bit more than what they came in with, because morality is kind of loose without an anchor, and the anchor is ethics. So it's more important, I think, to know what somebody's ethics are, or for them to figure out what ethics system they have. And if they don't know or they're not sure, you give them those resources, and then they go look into it, hopefully, and they go, okay, I've picked one or a couple, and this is how I view it now. And that's what formulates my basis of morality. But no, that would actually invite the reader to learn something. You don't want that. You want stupid people, I guess. Okay, anyways. But morality, where it came from, assumes it came from somewhere. And it came with us. As we evolved, morality evolved with us. Other animals display things that we would call morals or moral structures. And so you just add a little bit more complexity to the brain, and then you get more complex behavior. And so you would get, therefore, more complex morals. So evolution would be the answer. But I could say, I don't know, and then it wouldn't mean God. It wouldn't mean anything. But I could say evolution, because that's pretty much the answer. But I'm not going to give you that. Because atheism wouldn't give me that answer to give you. Atheism should be able to offer some alternate explanations for these things. No, it shouldn't, unless it was a worldview. If it was a worldview, then yeah, you could legitimately complain that it doesn't offer an alternative explanation for these things. But the very fact that it doesn't is because it's not a worldview. Derpy, derpy, derp. Jeff, you're an idiot and a liar. More importantly, as Ravi Zacharias, oh, that fraud? I don't care what he has to say. So I'm just going to skip his quote. Don't care. In other words, a belief that God doesn't exist or is not the most likely explanation needs to be able to explain, or at least have some idea how to answer questions. No, it doesn't. No, you're wrong. You're completely and utterly wrong. See, you have a worldview that tells you, okay, the world was made by God. Then the universe was made by God. And then humans were made by God. And then in the second chapter, the order switches around a bit, but that's okay. But at any rate, your worldview dictates to you how things came to be. And so when we ask people of your worldview, they will typically give us similar answers, if not the same answer, because you have a dictated worldview from your religion. However, atheism is not a worldview. So we do not have answers to these questions, because we cannot have answers to these questions that is dictated from atheism, since atheism isn't a worldview. Are you getting it yet, Jeff? Do I need to break it down a little bit slower? I don't know if I can make it any easier for you. But no, you don't need an explanation of anything to not believe in the Santa Claus. I mean, God. I mean, the Tooth Fairy. I mean, you don't need an alternate explanation. You don't need to explain anything at all in order to not believe in fairies or goblins or ogres or dragons. You don't need GODs if you don't want them. You don't need any explanation there. You say, I don't know why I'm here. I'm just here. Okay, that's it. That's all I know, is that I'm here. I don't have any explanation for it. And that's fine. Anything that I would say would be an ad hoc explanation. It would just be from my own imagination. And that's not good enough for me, because I want to be honest and say, I don't know. Because sometimes that is the answer. Sometimes the answer is we don't know. And I don't know if we'll never know, or if one day we will know, but we don't know right now. And to put "Here There Be Dragons" as a fill-in for the void isn't good enough. A question mark would be fine, but we don't put "Here There Be Gods," because we don't have the example of dragons. We don't have the example of gods, other than what we have already imagined to be dragons or gods, but we have imagined them. We haven't shown them to be. And that's the problem that religion uniquely holds, is the problem to show the claim to be true. Not believing in God is simply not believing in this thing that supposedly has ways to explain other things. Not always, because some gods don't explain why things came to be, but many god stories do. I would ask what makes something qualified to be a god. Does it have to create to be a god? I don't know. But at any rate, all of this is not necessary to have in order to not believe in a god. You don't need to know the answer or offer an explanation for anything in order to not believe. But your worldview dictates to you what mechanism gave rise to the universe. Your God. Biological life, God. Human consciousness, God. Laws of nature and logic, God. Does life has meaning? Yeah, worship God. Is there such thing as good and evil? Yes, God and Satan. There's your answers. My answers are, let's see, I don't know, for mechanism of the universe, biological life, evolution, human consciousness, our brain, laws of nature, the universe exists, therefore nature is a phenomenon. Logic is a construct of the mind. Life has meaning. Objectively is to procreate. Subjectively, you can give it whatever meaning you want. Yes, there's good and there's evil as constructs of the mind, and possibly as well. No, I don't think that they're anything more than constructs of the mind. But I would say it's evil to lie, which you're doing. So you're proof that evil exists. Good job there, Jeff. Realistically, it should be able to offer up a more compelling reason than that given any alternative. No, it doesn't, and it won't, because atheism is not a worldview. Jeff. See, your complaint that atheism doesn't offer anything is because it's not a worldview. And then you're like, well, atheism's a worldview and it doesn't do all these things that a worldview does. Yes, because it's not a worldview, you Nimrod. Oh, but atheism's a worldview and it doesn't give any... No, it's not a worldview. That's why it doesn't give any of those things. If you would just admit that it wasn't a worldview, then you would understand why it doesn't give you any of these things. But you don't want to do that, Jeff, because that would ruin your apologetic webpage, wouldn't it? You'd have to undo all this and put in honest effort here and critical thinking and studies and data. But you're too busy lying to yourself and other people about what atheism is to admit to the reality of what it is, because it makes a great straw man. If atheism is the correct worldview, it's not a worldview at all. And it's true that God does not exist, then you would expect atheism to have better, more likely explanations for everything we see. No, because atheism isn't a worldview. So, no, it won't have explanations for anything. Other things might have explanations, like, the whole science thing that you didn't like from before. That might have explanations for the things that we see. But that wouldn't be that science is a worldview. It could be part of your worldview, or you could make it a worldview if you wanted to. You would be like scientism or something like that. Or you could have a philosophy or whatever. And so you could be a scientist and an atheist, and those could be part of your worldview, which could be labeled whatever else. Maybe it doesn't have a name. Maybe the worldview that you have isn't named. That's possible. Or maybe because you're thinking inside of a box, Jeff, you don't understand that atheism isn't like theism. And Even theism isn't really necessarily a worldview in and of itself. Simply believing in a god doesn't necessarily make you have to believe in anything other than a god. Technically speaking, you could be a theist and not believe in the afterlife, angels, devils, demons, whatever else. And the only thing that you did believe in was God, and you would technically be a theist. But as far as it having better explanations, no, it doesn't have to have any explanations. And your explanations aren't good if they're ad hoc explanations. If they're erroneous explanations, they are things that attempt to fill in the pattern that you've seen with information that's unwarranted because you haven't shown that your explanation even is an explanation in the first place. You haven't given us a methodology for it. But no, the opposite of theism doesn't have to explain the world. I know that that's how you would love it to be. It makes things easier to understand. It would rid the world of some nuance, I suppose. But that's not the sort of universe and world that we live in, Jeff. Except it doesn't, because it's not a worldview. In fact, atheism fails to explain the majority of the big picture questions it should be able to explain if it was a worldview, but it's not a worldview, so it doesn't need to explain anything. Here's why. Oh my God. I thought that I was done. This is the part where Deconverted Band loses it. Okay, this is a scientific explanation, so okay, yeah. The origins question is huge. Well, I mean, there it is. There's a good model of it. What do you got? You need to put God somewhere right around here off the edge of the page here where science can't mess with it. So, yeah. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and fix that for you right now. And running a paint. Running MS Paint. Running MS Paint today. Oh, do-da day. Here you go all day. Making a song all day. Blah, blah, blah. Something, something. I don't know what to say. There you go. Here you go. Okay, so it's like, God's way over here, its own little bubble. Science can't touch it. It's way back before anything else somewhere. And so there you go. That should be your thing here for you. I helped you out. You can take this as a screenshot and use it on your website. You're welcome, Jeff. Okay. I don't want to save that though. Whoa! Oops. Okay. How did everything that exists got here? Here you go. There's the answer. This is at the core of any worldview. I don't know if it's at the core of any worldview per se. It's at the core of your worldview, maybe, but atheism isn't a worldview. I know I'm going to be saying that a lot because Jeff doesn't understand things. The one thing you want worldview to explain is the world, right? Well, I mean, that's the universe, technically not the world. But yeah, I mean, I know what worldview means. But yeah, I mean, all these things are science explains this, so that's the answer. Okay. Universe, go back to how did we get here? This right here is how we got here. Where did all the stuff come from? Right here. Right here. If there's no such thing as God and no supernatural cause, then the only explanation is everything just kind of happened. Well, no, that's not the only explanation. The explanation lies here somewhere, and we don't know what that explanation is. But here's my flip question to ask to Jeff, not that he would answer the question, is what's so wrong with not knowing? Or like, okay, that's not no. The question would be, let's pretend that we scientists worldwide had the answer, and it was what's the number?
42.
42. Thank you. The answer was 42. That it doesn't have to make sense, but that's the answer to everything. And they said, okay, this is where it all came from. 42. you and other theists would more than likely say, well, but God made 42, because he'd have to move the goalpost. So not having the answer is irrelevant, because you would still assert that your God made the answer possible, because your answer has to be God, or you stop believing in God as the answer to it. Now, I think that one could hold a belief in God and not force God into the sort of box that you're doing, but that would be an honest theist, and you're definitely not an honest theist. I know an honest theist. You are not an honest theist, Jeff. Okay, let's see. Blah, blah. Further, to claim that everything here rose naturally without any influence from a supernatural God means, if at all possible, it must have taken a very, very long time. Yeah, about 13.7 billion years. So what's your problem? Popular models, Big Bang. Well, I would say it's not just popular, but it's the overwhelming consensus at this point. In some sense, atheism is completely dependent on the Big Bang being true. Hold on, let me check my WTF book here. Let's see, page 7 of WTF book says WTF. The whole book says that. So no, it doesn't. There could be any number of possible scientific explanations, or any explanation, and it wouldn't affect atheism. The only thing that could affect atheism being true would be that there's enough evidence for God that it would be silly to be an atheist at that point. Like, something, anything. What do you got? Got anything? No. Okay. The Big Bang is not an explanation for what caused the universe to exist. That is correct. It's how the universe expanded after it existed. Well, I don't know about this bit here, because I'm not a cosmologist, but that sounds wrong to me on a scientific level. But I because see, the thing is, in this little point here with all this shiny light, this is a thing called the T1 point, and before that, math breaks down because the laws of physics breaks down. So we get to this point where we go, we don't know, and there's giant question mark here. If I was in MS Paint, I'd just draw a giant question mark, but I just closed that and I don't want to reopen it. Anyways, but yeah, so we get to a point where we go, I don't know, and we're kind of stuck for now. So so you can't really say what you're saying here, honestly, but you don't care about honesty, Jeff. Atheism has no idea. Well, yeah, I mean, atheism isn't a worldview, but atheism isn't a thing. Like, let me make sure I make clear what I mean by that, because I'm going to be taken out of context. Atheism isn't a person that it could have an opinion on things. Okay. Atheism has no idea. Yeah, no, because it isn't sentient. Like, okay, I know that's not what he's trying to say, but I'm just making fun of him at this point, because I don't know. I mean, okay. Atheists are very honest about this. Yeah, we don't know, and science doesn't know, and what's your problem there? Whatever. It's not the honesty that he actually considers honesty a good thing. That's funny, Jeff. That's really funny, because you're dishonest. That's funny to me. The problem is many atheists are cynical about belief in God. Well, I'm not cynical. I mean, I guess I could be. I don't know what. Even if so what? Even if that's true, and where's your data to show that atheists are cynical about, oh, right, it's a straw man, right? I understand why people believe in God. It makes perfect sense to me, because brains are different, because evolution has caused them to be different, and some people are going to have the God belief and some people aren't, and other people might be able to switch on and off. and all sorts of varieties therein. We are pattern-seeking creatures. So to see a pattern in the universe and to call it God, or to see a pattern in your own life and to call it God, or perhaps to have a mystery of this love that you project, and because you don't want to project it onto yourself because you don't feel worthy of doing that, you project that love instead onto a thing that you call God. And although God is still you, it's separate from you in your brain. So you're able to say, I love God, and you're really actually talking about yourself. And when you say you love God, it makes you feel good because you're basically telling yourself that you love yourself, but you don't think of it that way consciously. You think of that way subconsciously. And so maybe that's what God is you, and you're just affirming yourself. That's possible. But I'm not cynical about the belief. I'm cynical when it comes to people like you who lie and mislead others into believing your lies because it forwards a particular agenda that you have. You can believe in God. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. But when you go into the science stuff and you say things that aren't quite correct on science, and when you make up lies about what the word atheism is, and you say it's a worldview, which it isn't, that's going to make me a bit irritated, I think. Just like I said, if Christians all believe in leprechauns, oh, man, all these Christians believe in leprechauns all the time, you'd get irritated at that. You'd be like, I don't even know one Christian that believes in leprechauns. What are you talking about? It'd probably make you cynical, and it might make you cynical if a lot of people said it all the time. But anyways, it's just poisoning of the well, so whatever. Yet God is some arbitrary thing inserted to dismiss the... Yeah, God is an arbitrary thing used to dismiss problems. That would be my assertion of what God is. At least your God, Jeff. Maybe a different God that's more reasonable than the God that you believe in isn't that. But your God, Jeff, is just an arbitrary fiction that you put into question marks that you don't have the answer to. No one is saying, oh, God did it. Stop asking questions. Actually, I've heard people say that. So, I mean, some people have said that, but, whatever. Many a Christian philosopher has argued that even though the universe began to exist, God is really the only substantial explanation. Not to mention the fact that your universe contains highly constructed, blah, 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 blah. Well, okay, but wouldn't it still be stop asking questions at some point? Because you get to the God answer, and then there would be questions that you could ask, but you couldn't answer. Like, what's the nature of God? What is God made out of? Well, God isn't made out of anything. What does that mean? What is it like to be God? What is it like? Where does God's power come from? How does its brain, does it have a brain? And if it doesn't have a brain, how does it think? How does it function? What is its nature? Is God a spirit or a soul, or is it beyond even that? What sort of existence does God have, since it's so separate from everything that we understand? You don't know the answers to those questions. They're not given to you in the Bible, so you'd have to make up answers. And you're fine with doing that, Jeff, but you would have to stop asking questions, or you'd be like, well, I don't know. And then if another religion gave those answers, then according to earlier, if we have a better explanation, a more in-depth explanation, then we'd have to go to that religion that said, and this is what God's like, blah, 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 whatever, right? But it doesn't work that way, because the, quote, best explanation, quote, isn't just one that asserts more stuff onto itself. It's one that actually demonstrably demonstrates the phenomenon in question. And God doesn't do that, because you haven't even established what God is, or that God is at all. So there's some problems there. You also have the problem of the disconnect of God being this thing that you were calling supernatural, making a natural universe. Well, how is God able to do that? Well, it's God, so it just does it. Well, how? I don't know. It's just God has all this power. where does the power come from? You don't know. So again, a religion that said, well, the power comes from this, blah, 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 or whatever, would be better religion than yours. Anyways. Atheist rejection of God as a creator is unjustly dismissive given their lack of alternative. No. There's no precedent for it to be a creator because there's no precedent for it. And I don't need an alternative explanation. But I will say some atheists have offered that, and theists don't like those answers. Like, oh, okay, the entire universe as we understand it came from a different universe and has been created by aliens. Well, where did they come from? We don't know. But that's the answer. You don't need an explanation for the answer, right? You know, I've heard that. So you could posit that the whole universe is the Matrix or whatever, and you say, well, there is a creator, but the creator is mundane. People from the future came back into the past and started the Big Bang because that's what happened. You say, well, that's a paradox. That doesn't make sense. No. So what? Still an answer. Doesn't have to make sense. You could say magic did it. Just as good. Well, but magic isn't God. Well, why not? It's equivalent. But my rejection, and that's just tainted word usage because it assumes that God's a thing to reject, of God is irrelevant in terms of it being a creator. I don't care if it creates or doesn't create. The problem is I don't have an example of God. So I don't even know what it is or could be or what makes it a God in the first place to be able to say yes, no, or maybe to it. So I can't believe in it until I know what the bleep it is. And then given that definition, I might be able to believe in it depending. But your God so far has not been given anywhere in this article. And no, an alternate explanation doesn't have to be offered. But a mundane explanation like an alien race creating the universe is more plausible than a magical being creating the universe because we have no example of magic. Neither do we have an example of the supernatural. So anything that's mundane would be more plausible than the non-mundane. It doesn't make it not an answer. It just makes it less plausible as an answer. And that's a problem that you theists have yet to work out. If you don't have a particularly good argument as why God is a bad explanation, it doesn't matter how honest you are about not knowing what caused the universe to exist. It's still a God of the gaps argument. You replace God with ignorance. No. You don't need to have this idea that God's a bad explanation at all to not believe in God. This continual assertion, Jeff, that you're making that to not believe in X requires you to therefore explain Z is false. It's not true. And to fill in the blank of I don't know with anything would be an appeal to ignorance. To fill it in with God would be a God of the gaps argument. And I don't want to do either of those. So I don't know is the answer for many of these questions. And if you actually bothered to ask atheists rather than create straw man, you'd probably find that some number of them would say, I don't know to these questions. Or they might give you the scientific answers or the most supported scientific answers. But you won't like those because you'll be like, but what about this? But what about this? If you keep asking why, eventually you run into not being able to answer the question. Like I said, how does God think? How does it think when it doesn't have a brain? Because brains are physical things. So how does it think without a brain? I don't know. You don't know either. So what's that mean? Well, it doesn't mean anything. It just means you don't know. But A lot of people just have never had a God belief. And so it's not that they think God's a bad explanation. They don't even think God is an explanation, regardless of it being a good or bad one. And even if it's good, that doesn't make it the explanation. Life. Oh, God. If God doesn't exist, hold on. Then life, much like the universe, had to have started through some unguided process called evolution. It must have taken a very long time. Well, I don't know. Let's see. When the first mammals came about. You know what? On YouTube, if you go to YouTube right here, oh, I went to myself and now I'm talking in the background. I've got a chat that is saying tons of stuff that I'm not looking at. Sorry, chat. Type in history of the world and you'll go to a video that explains the history of the world, I guess. Pretty good. Pretty comprehensive explanation of all the stuff that you're asking. So there you go. I'm helping you out there, Jeff. Oh, okay. Natural selection is a theory of environmental pressures, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, okay. You don't like evolution? I guess. I don't know. Natural selection cannot apply to systems before life started. So, actually, that's not entirely true. It can, but you know that would require understanding science, Jeff. So, all nature has to work with before life starts is the laws of chemistry. That's all you need. Of course, you can argue that some anomalous process took place, but it wouldn't be natural selection, so it wouldn't be evolution. Yeah, no, there'd still be natural selection going on, but I guess you're complaining about abiogenesis, Jeff. So I'm not a scientist, and you need to take your complaints to somebody that studies abiogenesis because they would know more than I do. But since atheism isn't a worldview, it's not going to tell me things about that. Science would, but you don't like science. Well, I'm just saying, I don't know that Jeff doesn't like science, but you know, that thing from before when he said that atheists were fans of science indicates to me that he has some problem with science. I don't know. Yeah, well, hey, he mentions abiogenesis. To this day, abiogenesis is barely a hypothesis. Oh, gosh. Hey, Jeff, what degree in science do you have again? Because I don't think you're qualified to make that statement. But as far as it not being a theory yet, yeah, it's not. But again, it's this gap, and you go, aha, I can insert God there. You can't. Well, you will, but you shouldn't. Talk of surrounding life arising from non-life. Look, chemicals, when combined together, form more complex chemicals, and those will form more complex things, and eventually they'll form a creature at some point. And I don't know when that happens, or you know, I don't know all the things about it, but they've done this in labs to some extent. Maybe not all of it, but they've done some stuff. But it's this, all this is wishful thinking and optimism. And it's like, we're just hoping that there's a natural explanation. No, we're trying to figure out what the explanation is. See, you already have your conclusion decided. You've already decided the conclusion is God started the process. And you might be like, God started it and then let evolution take over. And again, a mundane explanation would be, well, aliens from another planet did the whole, seeding of the earth, and they're what got it started, and they have a different process that is, or whatever. But the honest answer for now is we don't know, but we've got a few ideas, and we're trying to figure out what idea matches a test that we could then run repeatedly to confirm that that's true. And then we try to falsify that. And there's a lot of work involved with all these processes that science does to verify an idea. And instead of spinning your tires complaining about it, well, you could go and learn enough stuff about science and maybe you could contribute to it. Or maybe you could just complain about it on some website that you made and pretend that you know things about it and then whine and cry about it and say, well, because we don't know, therefore God, which is basically what you're doing. Atheism and science have no idea. You know what? I mean, you should really just go ahead and just make it like, big. You should just do that. Like, make no idea huge, like that. There you go. Another free advice tip on your webpage there from good old Deconverted Man, Jeff. So go ahead and just make no idea like huge and in bold and colors, explosions. Oh, they have no idea. They don't know. But we know. We know the answer. It's God. Where was I? Blah, blah, blah. The problem is that no one knows how to say it, but it actually looks very much it could not have happened that way. Oh, what is that link to? It links to something stupid. Links to something stupid. Oh, it doesn't. Okay. Not to mention the philosophical. I don't care about the philosophical anything in regards to the pursuit of science. That it's just irrelevant. The atheist has no answer to this. Well, some atheists might because they're also scientists, so they might have an answer. But even if they don't have an answer, so what? That doesn't make your answer the right one. You don't have to know what the answer is to know what the answer is not. For example, I don't know what 1,000,000 to the power of 57 is. I have no idea. None. Now, somebody might know that. Anyone in chat want to say what the answer is, go ahead. I mean, I'm pretty sure a calculator would break if you asked it that question, be like error or whatever. But I know the answer is not 0. It's not 1. It's not any number below 1,000,000. I know it's not a negative number. So there's many things I can know what the answer is not without knowing what the answer is. See? And I know that the answer is not your Jeff's God, because Jeff's God relies on a number of logical fallacies, it seems. Well, actually, I can't really assert that, in all fairness. I don't know what Jeff's God is, because he hasn't told me in this article. I know that he's alluding to that we don't know X, therefore God. Now, he's not saying that, but it certainly seems like he's alluding to that this is a big problem. Atheism doesn't explain this because it's not a worldview. Atheism doesn't explain that because it's not a worldview. But atheism is a worldview. No, Jeff, it's not. That's why it doesn't explain these things. And science might explain some of them. We're all fans of science, as you said, but then there's going to be questions. And we go, we don't know. And you go, whoa, so you don't know. God did it. Consciousness. Blah, 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 blah. We don't know. Okay, whatever. Natural laws, blah, whatever. Meaning and purpose, blah. Okay, wait. It says stuff that I have to comment on. If God does not exist and the physical world is entirely a result of natural processes from the Big Bang to evolution to now, then life has no real meaning or purpose. Oh no! Oh, the panic! Oh, the existential dread! Oh no! So what? That might be the actual case. So what? Doesn't bother me. Here's why. I get to decide, and actually you do too, Jeff. You just don't know it. What my purpose is every single moment that I exist. Right now, my purpose is to tell you that you're a liar and complain about your website. After I'm done doing that, my purpose will be to read through comments that people have said in chat and respond to those. And then my purpose will be to see if my video got flagged for containing stuff from other things, even though it's completely fair use. And then my purpose will be whatever, fill in the blank. I think it would be very dull and boring to have a purpose given to you by anything, even God. Imagine if God said, your purpose is to tighten this lug nut in this building on 7th Avenue, 4th floor. There's a lug nut in the bathroom, men's bathroom, second on the right. Go there and tighten that lug nut. That's your purpose. You go there, you tighten that lug nut, and God says, well, you fulfilled your purpose. You go, okay, well, now what? God's like, all right, that was your purpose. So, see, what is the purpose for the theist? Well, it depends on who you ask. Some say the purpose is to serve God. To serve God, what does God need with servants? Isn't it God? What does it need done that it can't do itself? And some say that the purpose is to worship God. Why does God need worship? Well, God doesn't need worship. The people benefit from worship. So it's really that the people need the worship, I guess, maybe. Depends on the theist, again. But just because there's no objective thing that you can pin your hat on, that doesn't mean anything. It means we get to decide what it is. I think that's awesome. That's amazing. That's profound. That is the essence of free thinker. Free to be able to decide what to do without having to be told what to do. Hey, go worship this God all the time. If you tried to live as if a lot of these things were correct, go to church 24/7, 7 days a week. Now you can eat there, you can sleep there, you can go to the bathroom there, but you wake up and you worship, and you eat, and then you worship, and then you eat, and you worship, and then you eat, then you worship, then you go to sleep. At some point in there, you take a bathroom break a couple different times. And you get up and you worship. And you do that for 7 days in a row. And you tell me if it's boring or not. Maybe you'll enjoy it. I don't know. But that's your purpose forever. Some theists say. Others don't. Again, depends on the theist. That's not the purpose I want. Well, it doesn't matter. That's the purpose you're supposed to have. Well, I choose something else. Well, you're not God, so yeah. Well, I'm not God, but I also haven't been told what my purpose is by this God. And even if it told me, I might not do it. I don't know. Depends what it is. If it's just tightening a lug nut, well, if I don't do it, then what? Or if I do it, then what? But if I get to continually make life have its purpose moment to moment, that's more powerful. And I think if there was a God, it would say your purpose is your own. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, and we also have friends and families and pets and, a lot of other things that are important to us without a God or an afterlife or anything like that. So, just saying. Blah, 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 blah. Humanity will go extinct. Everything will go in oblivion, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we know. And yes, the universe will experience heat death and it might collapse in on itself and then do another big bang. I don't know. Doesn't bother me. In 3 million years, or it might be billion, the Andromeda galaxy will crash into the Milky Way. Now, we will be long gone by then, but if we were still around, we would be wiped out by that, more than likely. If we want humanity to continue, we're going to have to go and seed all the planets in our solar system, and we're going to have to get out of this solar system into deep space. We're going to have to make colony ships and stuff. We're going to have to figure out ways to make a wormhole or warp drive or something, and we're going to have, or I think colony ship, we could do that with our technology today, but it would be generations before anyone got to wherever they were going, with no hope of there necessarily being anyone there. But if we want humanity to reach out and survive the universe for as long as it can, then that's what we have to do. We have to go to the stars. There's no anything that indicates any hope of an afterlife that I can see, other than, science might be able to make our lives very long, might even be able to make it so that we stop aging, possibly. Then we could go to the stars on the generational ship, and it wouldn't matter if we didn't age. Then we could do that. But we'd have to figure out how to keep our sanity, but I'm assuming we would have that science as well. But, look, that's a mundane answer to the existential question. Maybe one day we would gain enough knowledge to know how to stop the universe from its heat death. Ever consider that? If we could make the universe last forever, and there was no death except accidental death, but there was no life expectancy, then religion, what hold would it have over anyone? Because you don't have to die. Ooh. Anyways, so most intellectual atheists tend to acknowledge this point. Well, yeah, I guess, whatever. If we evolved, why do you keep saying if we evolved? We did evolve. Are you suggesting that evolution is false? Like, whenever I see if we evolved, I always wonder if the theist is positing that evolution is false in some way, shape, or form. And so I'm thinking that he might not like evolution, like he's substituting God for evolution, maybe, or something. I'm not sure. Why all human beings seem to have contemplate the meaning of life? Well, I don't know if that's true, because you don't have any studies to show that it's true. But again, we don't need to know the answer. And again, even if we want to give our life purpose, so that doesn't mean anything more than we want to do it. It doesn't mean anything more than that. Let's see. Morality. Unless you talk about ethics, I'm not going to care. Nope, he didn't. Wait, ethics. Nope, no talk about ethics. I don't care. Atheism has no moral basis for enforcing moral values because it's not a worldview. So it's just non sequiturs. There's no observable evidence that morality evolved. Really interesting. You have any? You have plenty of theories. Okay, but you don't like that, so you're not going to include any links to things that might contradict your points or no. But yeah, there. I mean, that would be the only possible well, I don't know. That's the only possible one, but the alternative is God, I guess, because we don't know. Therefore, God. Yeah. Okay. Morality does exist. Well, as a construct of the brain, sure. Consider this quote. Don't care. There's a twist. What a twist. Did M. Night Shyamalan help you out here? Okay, whatever. Conclusion. Finally. Thank goodness. Thank Lord. Touching some broad religious, scientific, and philosophical, it was no shortage of intense dialogue. Well, you're saying stuff, a lot of which isn't true, and a lot of which you don't have any authority to speak on. So yeah, you're half right. Humans have been pondering the existence of God for thousands of years. Yeah, I guess. I mean, but I think humans have been doing a lot of weird things. Whatever, you know. Blah, 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 blah. Why do we get lonely? Because we're social creatures. Why do we seek meaning and purpose? Because we're social creatures. What are emotions? Chemicals. Why do we have them? We have complicated brains. Why would anyone invent a god that expected them to be celibate, self-sacrificial, self-denying, or monogamous? All sorts of reasons are possible. Here's a few: money, fame, power over other people. You know, so celibate, that, you know, this is always kind of actually something that is done, well, not just exclusively in cults, but it's a power thing. If I make up the religion, I get to tell you what the rules are. And controlling sex or your desires for sex is huge in religions, because it sucks away this thing that you want to do. You want to have sex, and it makes it bad and evil and vile, and so then you feel guilty for thinking sexual thoughts, and then you need the religion to cleanse you of that guilt, and so of course you're going to think sexual thoughts again, and so you're going to go back to the religion. Now, other cults have tried to make the whole thing about sex, like have sex all the time sort of thing. There's problems with both extremes, but it's a way to control people. So you would make up a god that was really good at controlling people if you wanted to control people. And you don't have to live by those standards that you set for other people, because you're special, or you're forgiven, or you're the high priest, or whatever. You can make exceptions for yourself, or just pretend like you didn't do those things. Oh yeah, I've been celibate forever. You have like 20 wives. Yes, but I'm very celibate. You know. Hope you haven't scoffed. Scoff! I scoff at you. As many often do. Willing to think about these issues and look at them in more honest detail. Oh, because I haven't been honest up until reading your blog there, Jeff. Yeah. Poisoning the well again, Jeff. Here's the thing. I hope that you hear my video, realize what a liar you are, fix your blog post, post some stuff that confirms things, makes people think, citations, you know, stuff that actually would engage the reader to think deeply, contradictive points other than your own, things that could potentially be against your points. You know, be honest. How about that? That would be a refreshing change. But you're an apologist, so I really don't think that you're going to do that. If you're a Christian, then remember, you have to examine these points yourself. Well, I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. You should always question whatever it is you hold most dear. Blah, 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 blah. References, blah. Did you read the whole thing? Basically. I get a free copy of the cheat sheet? Wait, what? What cheat sheet? Oh, the cheat sheet of 5 powerful reasons to believe in the Christian God? Why would I want that? Like, why would I want to cheat? Wouldn't I want to not cheat? I thought cheating was bad. I'm so confused. Should I put my email here? Yeah, I mean, I guess I could. Do I want it? Do I want it? No, I don't care. Okay, let's go to the chat. Oh my word. Hi, everybody that says hi to me. Someone disagreed with deny, implying that the thing is. Yeah, I mean, it just depends, I guess, how you use that word, I suppose. I'm very picky about certain things, so it's kind of. But yeah, fair enough. Okay. Let's see. They were giving me a headache talking about the whole atheist agnostic thing. It's really simple, and certain people want to make it more complicated than it actually is. Usually they have their heads not in the correct position. Let's put it that way. I know atheists who believe in ghosts. Hey, redacted, I want to talk to them. That would be interesting. I'd be like asking all sorts of questions. Oh, Keith. Keith is here. Hey, Keith. Let's see. Hi. People say hi. Let's see. No one has answers, only more questions. Yeah, I think that, we'll always have questions. More questions than we could ever answer. There will always be questions, but there won't always be answers. Can't even exist on most of the earth. Yeah, I didn't want to quantify with, whatever the percentage is, because I don't know that off the top of my head. I wouldn't know a study that knew it. So, let's see. So how does most of the universe wanting to kill you disprove a designer? It doesn't. It disproves the idea that the universe is finely tuned for life. You can't disprove a designer. Yeah, you can't disprove a lot of things. That's really not the point. The point is to prove the assertion, not to prove the negative. Because, like I said, local negatives you can argue against and disprove, but a universal negative you can't. It's just the nature of how things are. And what that means, I might go into deeper at a different time. Let's see. If fairies are claimed to live on Earth, they aren't found on Earth. You conclude fairies don't exist. Well, you could conclude they don't exist on Earth. That's a local negative that you could say. But then, of course, somebody said, "Well, have you looked everywhere on Earth?" And I'd be like, "Well, no, because it's very hard to do. Like you haven't looked in the center of the Earth, and maybe the fairies are there. So you can make it a universal claim by making the requirement to find the fairies so difficult that nobody could do it satisfactorily, and then say, until you've exhausted all the possibilities on Earth where fairies could be, then you haven't disproven them. And by doing that, you've made it a universal. And by making it a universal, you make it impossible to disprove, because to disprove it, you'd have to be able to show every single location of the Earth at the same time somehow, and put that on some sort of giant screen, I guess, and say, "Look, I've taken a picture. There's no fairies anywhere." Well, then of course they could, roll back the goalpost and say, "Well, you can't take a picture of the fairies. You have to see them with your naked eyes. So you have to go physically to all these places, even if you can't go there physically, because that's their demand or whatever." So it's useless to say you can't prove it isn't, because that's true of many things. What matters is to prove the positive assertion, whatever that is. The burden of proof is on the one that makes the claim. Always. Period. End of story. That's just how logic functions. It's not about disproving X. It's about proving X. This message is held for review. Okay, this message is held for review. Let's go ahead and show that. So these are different articles. I don't know what they're about, David, but I'll go ahead and open them and check those out. Please do in science. Yeah. I mean, the scientists are going down this thing of we're in a simulation. I don't know how many scientists are doing that or serious about it. I don't know. I don't care. I mean, if that happened to be the case, cool. Okay. I mean, there's not really anything we could do about it. But you know, if that's where the truth leads, then that's where the truth leads. But I don't know that that is where the truth leads. But you know, then that would make the creator a mundane creator. That would ruin the God thing, unless of course they want to roll back God to the so, well, it created the thing that created us, you know. Yeah, the devil wasn't Lucifer in the Bible. Yeah, I know. Let's see. Oh, the theory of science versus the way he was quoting theory. Yeah, he was kind of doing. He did put quotes around theory at least once in that blog post. So maybe Deconverted Man will break the fourth wall. I am breaking the fourth wall right now. Seeing if there's anything that I absolutely have to respond to. Or is it just, you know, stuff? Oh my goodness. Carpentry has no basis for morality. That's right. That's right, Redacted. We could have changed this entire blog post to complain about plumbing has no basis for morality. Politics has no basis. Democrat, Republican has no basis for morality. You know? Pikachu has no basis for morality. Pokemon does, though. So that's where I draw the line. Pokemon proves metamorphosis, by the way. SJ Thomason, best explanation of all life's questions equal God. No, it doesn't. Stand in front of a painting and disproves there is a painter. Well, here's the problem with that. If a bunch of paint is in cans and falls onto a sheet of cloth and produces what we would call a painting, then what? Nobody painted it. It just was an accident that happened to make things that we might call art. There's a rock that looks like a Native American, but nobody made it look that way. It just looks that way from nature. So it doesn't always imply that there was something more to it. And the whole creation requires a creator is the worst sort of illogical argument, that because it presupposes things, and the art makes an artist thing. I'm not going to give credit to something that I have no proof for. I have no proof of God. Went over this already with you. Okay, and the fact that you linked to this nitwit that's going at saying that atheism is a worldview makes me very much want to call you a liar, Stephanie, or SJ Thompson. I don't know why I call her Stephanie. That's not her name. I forget what SJ stands for now. Whatever. But you know, SJ, look. This guy said atheism is a worldview. It's not a worldview. And if you're going to support this guy, I'm going to have to call you a liar. Are you going to block me because I'm calling you a liar? Because you're supporting this guy that's a liar? That would be my question to you. Because I am calling this guy a liar. Cans fall into Picasso's paintings. Come on. Well, that's what I'm saying. You didn't really answer the question, though. Some paintings don't have painters in that sense. But again, you're comparing apples to oranges. Who in the world are you talking about? Well, SJ, you posted a link to this website that I'm debunking right now on this channel. The guy on this website said that atheism is a worldview. Atheism is not a worldview. That makes this guy a liar. Are you supporting a liar? If you are, then I would say you're potentially a liar yourself. And if you want to block me on Twitter or whatever, go ahead. I already called you out for saying something that was a lie before, which was the Christianity curing depression. It's absolute no basis for you to have said that. And you know that. Creations have creators. Reality requires a realtor. I mean, is that the best argument you have, really? We don't need this hypothesis. That's the problem. You haven't shown that it's a thing in the first place. If you want to debate about it, always open to debate any topic about creation and stuff. But that's not the question I asked you. I'll ask again. Are you supporting this guy that lied about atheism being a worldview? That's what I would want the answer to. Are you supporting Jeff, who wrote this website that you tweeted about? Atheism fails to explain our stuff, and the Christian Valor website that I went to, that I just spent all this time debunking, says that atheism is a worldview. Atheism is not a worldview. Okay? So, are you supporting this guy that said a lie? Yes or no? Jeff. Well, his name is Jeff with a G, I believe. Yeah, by Jeff right here. So, SJ, do you think that atheism is a worldview? Okay, SJ, you're wrong. It's not a worldview. It's not. It's never been a worldview. So, if you say it's a worldview, you're a liar. Or you're just wrong. So, pick one. Are you a liar or are you wrong? Now, given the amount of tweets that you do and how bad the logic is, I don't know. It's starting to seem less likely that you're just super wrong all the time. But you could be a liar. I don't know. See the U.S. government. See title. What does that have to do with anything? I don't. I think you're reaching here. Atheism isn't a worldview. It will never be a worldview. It isn't a worldview. If you say it is, you're just a liar or wrong. One of the. That's it. It can be part of a worldview, but that doesn't make it in and of itself a worldview. It's a description, not a prescription. That's it. A title VII identifies atheism as protected religion because it's a worldview that explains it. That doesn't make it that. if the next title said that there was no God, would that make there be not God? Come on. That's not what makes something a world. By fiat doesn't make something a world. The government said it's a worldview, so it's a worldview. No. That doesn't make it a worldview. I really, I mean, to call atheism a religion so that it can be protected, I don't know why they would have to do that, but I mean, that's the language that they might be stuck with within the Constitution and the laws that we make. We have certain language that's archaic. So even though we know that atheism isn't a religion, they might have to categorize it as such because of the language that the government has. And the language has to be precise and reflect the older language to be, continuous and precise in that way. But that doesn't make it so. That's just dumb. Just dumb. No, atheism doesn't explain the outlook on life. It is an answer to, do you believe in God? The answer is no, you're an atheist. That's it. It's very simple. All right, I don't need to share my screen anymore, I don't think. All right. This has been my live debunk of this christianvalor.com/why atheism fails. Links in the description. Jeff is wrong. either he's super wrong or he's a liar. I don't know. I've been calling him a liar. Pretty happy actually calling him that. You know, I'm gonna go ahead and throw SJ on that boat too, because I don't think after with all her knowledge she could be this wrong. But I don't know. Maybe religion blinds you. I don't know. I'm not in a good mood, so because that's just a lot of bullshit that I just read through. So I'm not giving people the benefit of the doubt right now. Atheists are protected under the title. Yeah. It doesn't make atheism a worldview, though. It just doesn't. It's like the law declares it's a worldview, therefore it's a worldview. Yeah. Sure. Whatever. It's not how things work. So in a different land where atheism isn't protected under law and isn't called a worldview, over there it's not a worldview? Is that how that would work there, SJ? Like, India or somewhere that doesn't protect atheism? Sharia law certainly doesn't. So under Sharia law, atheism isn't a worldview, right? That's how that would have to work. Oh, man. I don't reward bad behavior. I don't care. I think I'm going to save myself. I could continue to make deconstructing Piper's Pure videos on and on. But at this point, I think I've done almost as much content as I did with Matt Slick, with Karm Harm. And I think I'm kind of done now. So I don't think I'll be making anything more about you, SJ. And I don't think I'll be following you anymore. Just to let you know, you can block me, you can do whatever you want. I don't care. You don't have a debate. You don't have evidence. You don't have anything new to bring to the table. And you're bringing the same old, tired, broken ass arguments that we've heard a million times and we're just tired of hearing. Broadly speaking. So, goodbye. I'm done with you. Anyways. So. Trash is annoying by all. Yeah, too bad. You're annoyed by the truth is what you're annoyed by. Okay, there. Removed. All right. Well, anyways, that's all I've got. We don't have empirical evidence. We didn't have any repeatable tests. We didn't have a valid and sound argument. This webpage is a bunch of junk. Proved it as such. Atheism isn't a worldview. That's why it doesn't offer any of the things that the guy's complaining about, because it's not a worldview. If it was, then it would offer those things. Duh. It's not that hard. All right. Then I'm done. Deconverted man's done. My brain is tired. I am tired. That page made me tired. And I was a little bit grumpy and irritated. But that's okay. I don't care anymore. I'm done. I'm jaded. Super jaded. The other thing I forgot to bring up was, what about people that are supposedly going to hell? Wouldn't that make life pointless for them? Because he was saying, like, without an afterlife, life is pointless or whatever, right? Well, what if you're going to hell? Wouldn't that make that person's life absolutely pointless, like more than before? Like, what purpose does it serve God to have that person being in hell for all eternity? And that person is suffering. So what purpose is their suffering? Why? What good does that serve? What madness leads to that? And I think that the real answer, not the Christian answer, but the real answer is the dark part of us that wants to hurt the person that hurt us, wants to punish that person, and just wants to keep on punishing them. When you were a kid, like, I don't know if you ever played the I punch you, you punch me, and you punched me hard, so I'm going to punch you harder. And then it just keeps escalating until you stop because you don't want to get it too far. But You don't know what it's like to feel their pain because you don't feel their pain when you hit them. You only feel your own pain. And when someone's hurt you emotionally or physically or whatever, and we go, oh, we want to see that person rot in jail and just suffer. And I've seen people say they want to see people get raped or killed in jail, especially if like it's somebody like tortured an animal and people are like, oh, kill that person, or whatever, like torture him, or it's like, oh my goodness, really? Like, I mean, come on, what they did is bad, but what you're saying to do is even worse. But it's not enough. In our darkest imagination, that little bit of torture isn't enough. We want to just keep going. We want to just keep hurting that person. And we don't want it to ever end. And so what hell is the pretend idea that all the people that we hate and don't like will just suffer forever. And that will just make us feel so good. Like, yeah, they're getting what they deserve. Yeah, forever. They're just getting hurt all the time. That will make me feel real good because I'm such a good person that it makes me feel good to know that people are suffering. Oh, wait. Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe being happy that people are suffering makes you a horrible, terrible person. Maybe we shouldn't wish ill on people. Maybe we should only want for them to be healed. Okay, they did something bad, sure. Why? Because they're broken. They need to be fixed. We need to do something to fix that. We can do that. Well, if you accept Jesus, then, whatever. Anyways, so unless and until we have a valid and sound argument, which we didn't on this website, we should be skeptical of the conclusions.